Hey there, my name's Andrea Gaughan and I'm a knitwear designer based in Asheville, North Carolina, and right now you're watching my knitting podcast. This is something I do every few weeks and I catch you up on what I've been working on. Today I'm going to be talking about a design that I just released, which is the iris top, and I am wearing it right now. And then I'm going to talk for a while about a new design I'm working on. And I also have a new sample to show you of a design that's currently in testing, which is the Willow Pullover. I'm working it in different material and I'm really excited about how different the result is. And let me see, I think that's what I'm going to stick to today. And if you are new here, I hope you enjoy following along with this kind of behind the scenes of my design work. And if you're returning, thanks for joining us back here. And I hope you enjoy checking out what I have to share today. Let's get into it. Okay, so first up, I will give you some close-up looks at the design I'm wearing right now, which is the iris top. This is a fitted cropped top, and there you can see the bottom detail, and it hits right at like natural waist point. And it's worked in all over 3x3 ribbing, and then has twisted 1x1 ribbing edging for contrast on the neckline, armholes, and bottom. Let me give you a close-up of the top here. So you can see the whole thing is ribbing, but then there's contrast in size between these different ribbings, just add a little nice detail of the edging. Okay, and if you've been following along, you know this is my second sample that I made. I have another one that I made in purple. So you can see how much the ribbing changes when worn. This is the exact same size, but it's extremely stretchy. And this is my first time doing a tank that was substantially fitted, and I'm really happy with the result. This is basically a fit of tank that I go for. Like, I have a whole bunch of fitted crop tanks in my regular wardrobe of like made to wear clothing, and I find it to be just like a really easy thing to throw on any day in warm weather. It always feels comfortable, and I have a lot of high-waisted bottoms, like high-waisted jeans and high-waisted shorts that mix and match super easy with all of those. So I'm really happy that this achieved the desired fit that I wanted really well. And if you haven't already, you should go check out my tester showcase, which I will link below. So this pattern came out last week, and whenever the pattern comes out, I also make a tester showcase where I include all the projects from every tester, and I include what yarn they used and what size they made and other fit details, like if they made any modifications. And this design includes bust darts, so I didn't make bust darts for my size, but you can also see examples of what the bust darts look like, and if you're not familiar with them. So you can see from front to back, my hem is pretty flat, and the stretchiness of the fabric is plenty enough to accommodate my like average for my frame bust size. But if you have a larger frame for your bust size, the fabric's gonna pool and you'll get a result that's more like this, and especially something that's already cropped, that can make quite a big difference. So bust darts add an extra trapezoid of fabric to accommodate the room for a bust. And I have like detailed information in the pattern about how to know whether you need it. And then there's two size options. So it's really great to see, because it was my first time seeing how it would actually work on other people's bodies to have those bust darts in something that was really fitted. And it seemed like people were really happy with their fits. So like all my patterns, it's graded to 10 sizes and size inclusive. And then the 2 bust dart options per size give extra range. So basically there's like 30 total options. Yeah, so this is a collaboration with Explorer Knits and Fibers, and Allie, who operates that business, is just so amazing and nice, and I actually originally bought a skein of this yarn at her booth at Rhinebeck last year, and I was really looking for fingering weight yarns that were non-superwash and did not contain nylon and were next to skin soft. And this base is called Earthy Sock, and it exactly met those criteria, and as a way better bonus is dyed in gorgeous, gorgeous colors by Explorer Knits and Fibers. So Allie put together a pre-order for yarn, so any of you who participated in that, I think it's closed now. I'm not sure how long it was open for, but that was a week ago. But if you want her yarn, you can follow her page and she'll do pre-orders at different times if you want to get this exact base, but any fingering weight base will work well. I had one tester that even used cotton. Cotton isn't going to have the same stretch and be so fitted. Once it stretches out, it's going to kind of stay stretched out a bit more and not have that bounce back. But any kind of like merino nylon sock yarn would work well, or something like Knitting for Olives merino. I think at least one tester used that, and that would work really well. And of course, what counts as next to skin soft is relative for different people. But yeah, that's mainly the main criteria, that you can get gauge and it's a feel of yarn that you'd be comfortable wearing close to skin. Okay, well, I chatted quite enough about that, so let me get started on talking to you about my current in progress design. Okay, so this is a design that I have in progress, and it's actually being tech edited right now, but I'm not done my first sample, and I actually have plans to do quite a few samples, which if you've watched my previous podcast, I try not to do, but I got a little, I don't want to say carried away because I'm happy with the result, but my original idea was just to have this first sample be the entirety of the pattern, basically. And anyway, I'll show you this sample and then I'll tell you the differences between the other samples and explain how I'm envisioning the pattern as a whole to be. So this is my first sample, and it is right now just the body. It will have sleeves and be a regular sweater, but it's a oversized but not hugely oversized drop shoulder sweater, worked in DK weight yarn with a big band of stripes across the chest. And let me put this on. Actually, I don't think I've put it on since I seamed both shoulders. I think I did one shoulder and then put it on. Oh, I haven't put it on since I did the collar for sure. So the way the sides are sitting is going to be very different once there's sleeves attached to pull these down. You can see big band of stripes across the chest in rainbow colors. Oh, okay, good. Oh, you're seeing along with me the fit of the neckline, and it's exactly what I wanted, which I've done a similar neckline before, so I have pretty good hopes that it would work well. But as you can see, it's a nice, really relaxed fit. It has 10 inches of positive ease, and it is a more normal sweater length, which I tend to knit more cropped sweaters that are knit to a length more like this. But I have so many of them now. I know, especially in the coldest days of winter, I really am like, no, I want that extra coverage and making sure there's no way that cold air is getting in there. So making sure to knit some more full length sweaters this season. And I'm just so enthused with how this has turned out. It's like exactly my vision. I just wanted a big band of rainbow stripes and classic oversized sweatshirty fit. You can see the stripes go around to the back as well. And they're centered on the armhole, so they start, snip bottom up and they start in the body, and then you break the front and back and they continue. So as I said, this was my original idea for the sweater, and I am super happy with it, But let me tell you about the yarn I'm using, because that is involved in my story. So I am using Sonder Yarn Co.'s Sunday Morning DK, which is a 75% BFL and 25% Masham non-superwash wool. This is a skein I got for my second sample, and it's so pretty and nice. It's dyed on a gray base, which is one of my absolute favorite things in a yarn because it makes all the different colors like extra cohesive. So each color has the same base that it's dyed on. I kind of think this is the undyed color, but I'm actually not sure. There's a couple different shades of gray, so I'm not sure which shade of gray is the undyed one. But you can see they almost all look like a little heathered because the gray is also not 100% uniform. I'm not sure. I think it might be that the BFL is one color and the Masham's a darker color, so that adds to the heathering. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case. But I've seen in some like art, color theory stuff that people, to make a painting where all the colors go together, you'll add one color into all of your colors. So for example, you take a bit of mustard yellow and add a tiny bit of mustard yellow into the green, into the blue, into the purple, into the basic yellow, into the orange, into the red. And that just gives everything a bit of a cohesive look. And the purple isn't gonna look yellowy, but it just ties it all together. Let me know if that makes any sense. I don't know if I could find the video. I saw it in a video form, and you could see that it took like the basic color palette and then the one that was all shifted, tinted with some of the same colors, and it just looked way like super cohesive in a way that it would be hard to guess how they got that result if you didn't see them mix in that dab of yellow, mustard yellow with all of them. And you know, mustard yellow is just an example, but you could use any color. So I think that happens with the gray base. Both I like the heathered look, and then I think all the colors get extra tied together and look cohesive. And just to start, the color palette offered by Sonder Yarn Co. is gorgeous, 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 which is the whole reason I picked it. Picking yarn online, as you probably will know, can be a struggle, especially when I've tried to do color work or multicolor things. I feel like if one color is not what I envisioned, it's not the worst thing in the world, but if you had two colors, like here's an example. I like these two colors a lot. This is something I ordered for a future project. But online, I thought this was like a sagey light green. So I thought I was going to have like a teal, blue, and like a light green. And they're really like darker and lighter values of the same thing. Anyway, they're still okay, but it's just not what I envisioned. And one alone wouldn't be that big a deal, but just the combo isn't what I was picturing. But anyway, I thought that the gray base would help it be more likely that all the colors came together as I hoped, and they totally did. I think at a distance, the blue and green are a pretty similar value and they can blend together. It's a little dark in this room, unfortunately. But I think in real life, they plenty are visible from each other. Okay, so reason I wanted to tell you about what the yarn is because I emailed Melissa of Sonder Yarn Co. about getting yarn support for this design, which she kindly provided for the sweater. But we're kind of discussing the logistics, and she is saying how something that's unfortunate basically is that the requirements for this sweater would be an entire skein of all 5 of these colors, where you'd only be using a small percentage of the skein. And I shared that I did want to encourage people that they don't have to go out and buy 5 colors they don't have. They could use colors they have creatively, but I completely understood where Melissa's coming from, and she said that she may be able to offer like half skein bundles or something for the release, but we'll have to see. But basically thinking about that made me be like, well, I don't want this to be too limiting that someone would not want to knit the sweater because of the yarn required. But really all this is like my most basic favorite sweater shape and sweater weight. So of course someone could just knit a plain one color version, but what I was thinking is that this is like only one example of the many different stripe patterns someone could do. So my original thought was, oh, I'll do this version plus a version with just thin all over stripes in 2 colors. So that someone, if they were interested in only having to buy 2 colors of yarn, then they could knit that version. I've been trying to think about what I'd want to do specifically for that stripe version. I was like, well, really, people could do any stripes they want. So this has kind of taken a new direction, and I'm calling it the corniest thing in the world, which is the Striptastic Sweater. But that popped in my mind. I was like, that's corny as heck, but I'm gonna do it, and I think having a name that's a little memorable is good. And I am planning on doing 4 versions of this, but we'll see how many really happen before the release. But I'm going to do a version for my partner that is going to have all over stripes, with stripes this size, but intersected between them with gray. And then I'm going to do a 2 color stripe version with like clustered little stripes with this base. And then because doing these different versions is going to leave me with a lot of different yarn, I'm going to do a completely scrappy version as well with randomized stripes. Or at least that's my plan. We'll see what really happens. But the point of all of that is that I want to be able to market the sweater as, here is a basic drop shoulder DK weight pattern, and you can use your creativity to do any kind of color blocking or striping or whatever the heck you want to do to make it your own, and provide a lot of examples of different things you could do. So you could follow the exact sequence I did, because I know a lot of times it can be preferable to just follow exactly what you've seen executed and know looks good, or start with your own idea and completely make it up yourself. And then I was kind of getting carried away with all my different ideas of different like color palettes and stripes. So what I decided I'm going to do is include in the pattern, or probably also just on the pattern pages, I don't know exactly, but some Pinterest boards that I've already been making for myself, which is one that has different ideas for stripe distributions, like stripe patterns, whether it's different bands of stripes across the chest, or chunks of stripes, or color blocking, or stripes on the sleeves only, or all kinds of just like jumping off points for people. And then I'm also going to make a board of color inspiration, because I know once you get more complicated stripes, it can be harder to envision how different colors are going to all look together. So I'm going to just provide, and there's a ton of stuff on Pinterest about different color schemes and color combos, so just provide that also as a jumping off point. And okay, another main thing I want to say about this is that I am working with my tech editor to, for the first time for a sweater pattern, include intentionally gender inclusive sizing. None of my sweater patterns have ever been explicitly gender exclusive, but they have been graded off of women's sizing charts. So an average male body would need to do adjustments to the base pattern to fit it to themselves. But of course there's no standard female body or standard male body. So I was originally thinking I would do like a traditional women's version and traditional men's version. And I'm working with my tech editor to see exactly what we are going to settle on, but right now what I'm looking at doing is doing a tall version and a short version, because the main things that need to change to fit people of those like average body types is more length in the sleeves and more length in the body for an average male build. And then of course many women are also tall, so it's not going to be men's and women's, it's going to be just short and tall, and the differences are just going to be longer body and longer sleeves. And because the fit is so wide in the chest, average men's sizing chart and average women's sizing chart do have different cross front measurements, but the entire like arm span is going to be longer because of the sleeves and the tall version, so I think that that will account for that plenty, and the amount of extra width here will be plenty for all sizes. But anyway, we'll see what my tech editor has to say, but I am intentionally including more fit options to be sure that someone who is knitting this for a typical male, or average, not typical, but average male body doesn't have to make a whole bunch of modifications because it's graded based on a average female body. So I'll probably get back into that when we get actual decisions made, but that is something I would like to make normal or standard in my patterns from now on. And the main reason I haven't done that before is because most of the size charts that I use don't even have a male version. So I just bought the ASTM, which is a whole thing. Maybe I could get into a whole video about grading at some point, but they have 3 different men's size charts. They have like a young men that's small sizes, and mature men that's middle and larger sizes, and then plus size men, which is larger sizes, and they all have overlapping sizes like that don't match up, and you need to match them all together to get if you want a single size chart. And so anyway, I've been diving into all of that, and I think getting into the more nitty-gritty of that would be very beneficial for a more fitted sweater, but I think the relaxed fit of this, the main thing that's going to be important is making sure that there's that extra length. And for the short and tall, a little bit more how that fits into like the gender neutral. In the US at least, I looked it up, the average women's height is 5'5", and the average men's height is 5'10". But actually in this really good audiobook I've been listening to, Come As You Are, I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but it's awesome so far. I'm like halfway through. She talks about how even things that have like statistical average differences for men and women, the range of what is normal for women and the range of what's normal for men usually has a much greater range. So she's saying specifically for height, like if women are on average 5'5" and men are on average 5'10", there's a 5-inch difference there. But say the full range of average height for women, I don't remember what it is, but it's something like 8 inches, and for men it's something like 9 inches. So there's a big overlap and a big variation between those two things, even though their averages are different. So anyway, it works out that kind of inherently is fine to use gender neutral language in the pattern, because short and tall just have average correlations on average, with more men are taller on average and more women are shorter on average. But you don't have to pick a size based on your gender at all, you pick a size based on your height. Okay, talked about that a long time. That is stuff I've been spending a lot of time at my computer looking at size charts, trying to look at how other people handle this. But that is to say, this sweater is going to be coming out in the fall and is going to have a whole bunch of different striping options. I'm going to make a sample for my partner who is male and taller to be an example of the tall fit size, or however it ends up being worked out, and several samples for myself. And I hope to be moving forward with having even more fit options that are more gender inclusive than my current ones have been. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up talking about that in my future podcasts. I know I'll be talking about it more as I work up my different samples. But let me jump into my next thing I want to talk about, which is my newest sample of the Willow Pullover. Okay, so first of all, I'll show you my original sample, the Willow Pullover. This is a sweater that is now in testing. It is a drop shoulder sweater worked in all over basket weave stitch that has eyelets. So between each of the weaves, there's a little eyelet, so it really looks like woven fabric or a woven basket. And it's named Willow because of willow's use as a basketry material. And so this is a DK weight wool, which is the first suggested yarn for the pattern. And the second suggested yarn for the pattern is fingering weight yarn wool plus a lace weight yarn, which here I am using silk mohair. It's kind of scrunched up on the needles, but this is able to achieve the same gauge, but it is so different of a fabric, especially this combination, which is Biche and Bûches, Petit Lambswool, and what do they call their mohair? Just called silken mohair. What's called Le Petit silken mohair. Okay. Well, anyway, these two together, I think that this wool is worsted spun because it seems, it's definitely a fingering weight, but it's extra like lofty and light. This feels like it weighs nothing. Like I feel like when I pick this up, I'm mostly feeling the weight of the needles. That's probably a little bit of an overstatement, but this is going to be a super lightweight, but still very warm because it has lots of space in there to trap air. It has the fuzziness. Can you see the fuzz? I'm not sure how well you can see, but it's got like a gorgeous, super fluffy, fuzzy halo of that mohair. So I'm really excited about how different this exact same pattern with nothing changed besides the yarn used, how different the result is. So I hope I can get some good pictures or videos in the future to like capture that really well. That was another thing I was actually thinking about for my Striptastic sweater, is that it is also a DK weight yarn, so it could also be knit up with fingering plus mohair, which would be really cool, I think, like a fluffy, fuzzy sweater with stripes. Yeah, so as you can see, this is knit bottom up, and that was specifically my choice for this pattern because of the all over stitch pattern. It's really a pretty basic stitch pattern once you get into it, but it's a lot easier to do shaping bottom up because all you have to do is just remove stitches from your pattern. But if you're starting with just little chunks of the pattern at the shoulders and at the back neck before the shoulder shaping, it's, I find, much less intuitive of how to increase in pattern, and every size is going to start with a different little chunk and have to increase in pattern differently. And I personally really like the workflow of knitting a bottom-up sweater. I know people are adverse to it, so I've kind of in the past been like, I can't do it because people might not like it. I have top-down patterns, so I'm not anti-top-down, but when there's a good reason, I feel, for the sweater to be bottom-up, I don't want to make the pattern more complicated than it needs to be so that it's top-down. And I know that a lot of people prefer top-down because of feeling like they can get a better fit. So I have included a tip in this, as well as the other sweater, in the pattern about how to make sure you knit your body to the length you want. But really, it's quite straightforward. If the best thing to do, I find, for a bottom-up sweater is just to find the total length, and how you want to measure the total length is this top of shoulder to the bottom of the hem. Because if you measure the back neck might sit higher or lower on different garments, but the top of the shoulder is always going to be at the top of the shoulder. So find either a hand knit sweater, a store-bought sweater, or even like a sweatshirt. And you want something that has just like a generally similar fit, so don't measure something really fitted. If you're making something oversized, don't measure something oversized, you're making something fitted. But they don't have to be necessarily like super similar, the exact same construction, and just lay it out flat, measure that top of shoulder to bottom of hem, and then compare in the schematic the total length of the sweater versus the total length of your garment that you like the fit of, and adjust the body. So say the sweater you like the fit of, the total length is 24 inches, and the pattern says for your size the total length would be 22 inches, just an extra 2 inches into the body, and you're gonna get the length that you know you're happy with. Yeah, so I'm big proponent of bottom-up sweaters. I think it would probably be good for me to do videos about that or reels about that to kind of get more people on board of how they could feel more comfortable thinking that they're gonna get a size that they're happy with. What else do I want to say about that? Oh, another thing is if you don't have a sweater, of course, that you're actually thrilled with the length of, just get the thing that's closest. Say you have a sweater you like, but you're like, I'd really like for it to be an inch longer. You know, measure it, add an inch to that, say that's your ideal length, compare your ideal length, total length to the schematic total length, and make the difference. So, especially with, you know, all my sweaters don't have any body or waist shaping or anything, it's quite easy to just add that extra length into the body. And yeah, so I hope that maybe that might make a couple of folks out there a little less intimidated by doing a bottom-up sweater. Both of these are knit so that the sleeves are actually top down still. So the Striptastic Sweater and Willow both have it so that the body and front and back and everything is knit bottom up. But then once you have that, you pick up stitches and do the sleeves top down as usual. So that is good for the sleeve fit. You can try it on and make sure the sleeves hit where you want. Yeah, you don't have to like choose your sleeve length before then joining it. Okay, so let me see. Anything else I want to talk about? So that sweater, Willow, is going to be coming out in very early September, and it is currently in testing. And my testers are doing wonderful jobs, and some people have made a lot of progress already. You're zooming along, so that's always really exciting because I feel like I get so much momentum when I'm designing and knitting up my sample, and then there's this long period of time before then I can do the release while the test knit happens. So I really selfishly enjoy when I get to see updates from my testers, and it feels like there's still things going on with the pattern and keeping it alive and not getting like stale and forgotten about in that interim period between when I'm actually designing and releasing it. So let me see, I think that is what I wanted to talk today about. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this, and as always, if you are not already subscribed and you made it this far in the video, I hope you enjoyed it, so be sure to subscribe. I'm putting these podcasts out about every other week right now, and I actually just recently uploaded a part 1 of an Ask Me Anything video where I talked about some of my personal interests and thoughts about knitting community and my experience learning to knit and background there. And I actually took so long recording that I didn't get through all my questions that you all asked me, so I'm going to be doing a part 2 hopefully next week is my intention. And I kind of saved all the designing related questions, like how I got into designing, if I design full-time, how I choose my inspiration, resources I like, so-and-so, etc., etc. So if you're interested in any of that, be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out next week for that video. And then the following week I should be hopefully back on my every other week podcasting schedule. But we'll see, because I do have a lot of family coming to visit in July, which is very exciting. So it might be a little disrupted by that, but we will see what happens. And if you want, I should have said this before, if you are interested in the possibility of test knitting the Striptastic Sweater, that is going to be, that test call is going to be coming out midweek or end of the week next week. So sign up for my newsletter. That is going to be the first place I'm putting a test call out. So I especially am interested this time in getting a variety of people with different gender identities to be able to showcase in the tester showcase that the sweater is intentionally designed to be unisex, fit all gender types and identities. So if you are male or non-binary, or if you have a male or non-binary person in your life that you would like to knit for, I am extra looking for, because the vast majority of my test knitters are female identifying people. So this time I'll be extra looking for people of other gender identities as well. Okay, so thank you so much for hanging out and watching this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.